Welcome everyone to Off the Cuff. My name is Kenzie Kash, and today our guest is Miles Brackenbury. Miles is a ridiculously talented athlete on the men's cross country team at Queens. To name off a few of his accolades, he's a two-time team's bronze medalist for cross country, Team Ontario for Canada Summer Games in steeplechase, fifth in OUAs this past fall, and he was first team OUA All-Star. So, Miles, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. It's an honor to interview you.
Thanks, Kenzie. Really great to be here. Always great chatting with you, and thanks for making my head big.
Yeah, we were just talking about this, but it's kind of funny because Miles, this is a special episode for me because I've interviewed Miles for the Queen's newspaper and I interviewed him for this show already, but when the sound came back after our hour-long conversation, he had great points and everything, but I was talking like I was in a tin can. Like something happened technically with the Zoom call. So Miles, thank you so much for coming back. It's awesome. It's awesome that you're back here.
Yeah, and crossing my fingers that the Zoom gods come through for us this time around with good audio.
Exactly. Dude, I was saying it's like you're my camp pen pal that like we've just been writing back and forth letters and no one else knows, but we're best friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I just wanted to start off with sort of some season takeaways that you've made. You made some nice distance from the season. Um, what are some takeaways that you've made personally and from a team perspective?
Yeah, so from the cross country season this fall, I think there were a lot of takeaways. As a team, we went in having won bronze the year prior and having higher expectations than usual. So I think we kind of learned what it was like to run with that kind of uh, high expectations and that little bit of added pressure of being like a national contender. We definitely saw ourselves as like in the running for the gold medal race. Um, and to come away with the bronze medal was kind of this reassuring, like defending our title as a medalist, but also leaving you wanting more, starting to think about, okay, what's going to get us to that next level. Also taking pride in what we did and the process that we went through. Not being completely let down, but not being completely satisfied. So I think it's a good place to end a season when you're not at the lowest of lows, having missed all your goals, but you still got something to strive for. And I think we showed that the team was really on the up and up in U Sports, which is exciting. Like we've got next mentality. And kind of like in the season, like when I interviewed you with you for the journal, like it was kind of like if not this year, next. And I
Mhm.
think it's very much like turning that page to the next, but making sure that we're taking the lessons that we learned and enjoying the process along the way. For me, individually, the process has never gone better. Just like amazing season, loved every second of it, with a bit of a disappointing result at the end of the day. Like I got that OUA All-Star status that you mentioned, which was huge for me. Big accolade that I've been striving for, but missed that U Sports All Canadian status. That's kind of that next bar. And luckily got to watch some of my teammates get the job done, who I train day in, day out with. So really inspiring to see that. But that left me with a lot of lessons about, how to show up on the day. And, you can have a great season, but what are you going to do to show up on championship day?
Mhm. Dude, what else do you have to do to become a U Sports All Canadian? I mean,
Every sport's a little bit different, right? Like some of these team sports where it's really hard to compare athletes, you've got, I think, coaches polls, and you can get nominated. Running is a little more cut and dry. So
mhm.
OUA's top seven first team all-star, top 14 second team all-star at the championship on the day. So like that was a pretty good day for me. Got the job done. U Sports, same drill, top seven, first team All Canadian, top 14, second team All Canadian. So it's all about, beating your competitors on the day, being in the top 14. And it's exciting because it kind of extends that podium beyond the top three. And it means that you're striving for medals, but you're also striving for all Canadian status because you're recognizing kind of the grit and the accolade of being top 14 in the nation. So yeah, that's something chip on my shoulder that I still got to chase.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You don't strike me as an accolade chaser, but because you're such a dominant athlete and you work so hard, the accolades chase you. Um, and I've talked about this with you before, and I've said this to a bunch of other Queens athletes that I've been speaking with, where it's like when you are winning, when the standard is such a high level of success, it's kind of hard to not always view something as a failure. And I think it's really important to kind of understand your mindset, motivation wise. Uh, Kind of what are some ways that you stay grounded and humble and motivate yourself to be the athlete that you are? Because it doesn't seem like I don't know. Like it just seems like there's a futility to chasing perfection and you can never be perfect, but also it's kind of hard to chase uh something when you're at the head of the pack kind of thing. So yeah, just kind of talk a bit about your motivation.
Yeah, totally. I think for me, like I'm someone who's been everywhere in the pack over my running career, if you can call it a career. For me, it's just the sport that I love to do. I so I've had that early success kind of in high school, but I was still being humbled by like some of the like incredible talents who were a bit ahead of me, and so I quickly learned from a young age the importance of hard work and putting in the work to it wasn't like I just could naturally be at the front of the pack. And then coming to university, racing against older, stronger athletes, you kind of find yourself at the back of the pack again, and you work your way up. And it's been really exciting, and it's nice to have those affirmations when you see yourself succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
But in in your success and in your failures, you learn that you actually have the most growth when you're not winning, and when you and that's where you can kind of learn the lessons of why am I actually doing this, what am I getting out of this, like as a person, and like how can I build kind of a healthy mindset around my training that's about more than yeah just like win or lose. So when you start to see growth as the ultimate indicator of success, and growing in multiple ways, not just getting faster and stronger and further up the pack, but also getting more composed
Mm-hmm.
and better recovery, and and better race strategy, as well as race awareness. Like all of these things aren't measured in your final result, but they're things that you can improve and things that are easily transferable to other aspects of your lives, and those are all really big successes. So I feel like I feel very excited to be at a place where I feel like I can compete with the best. But
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn that the all other successes, the smaller hidden successes, are what gets me here, and enjoying the process along the way with people that support you is kind of the ultimate success. And win or lose at the end of the day, if you've done everything you can and everything you can do, and you've then I think that's healthier than just celebrating a win. Then you can celebrate the growth you got in a loss.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny that you bring that up because it reminds me a lot of what your coach was preaching when I spoke to him, where he was saying he was talking about how uh, cross country is an individual sport, but actually the truth is that it's a team sport. Like it's seen as an individual sport, but really you guys view it as a team sport, and your team is just as strong as your weakest link, uh,
Mm-hmm.
for use of a better term. And I remember he was preaching a philosophy of team needs over individual wants. Kind of talk about how you took that philosophy in stride, and as a leader, sort of exemplified that to your group?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think like team needs over individual wants is really yeah, a philosophy that you don't even necessarily think about. It's just kind of naturalized on our team, which is special because
Hmm.
everyone's there showing up for one another, and you're ultimately able to find that extra gear when you're doing it for something bigger than yourself. So even if you want some individual accolade or individually you want something, when you are doing it for like a bigger collective, it kind of transcends those individual wants. And then it's also nice when and I think what we have on our team is individual wants and team needs kind of meeting. And when the individual truly wants what's best for the team, then you have this really strong bond formed across teammates. And cross country is a cool sport because there's that individual winner and then there's the team winners. And it's the team race that ultimately generates the most excitement. And that's where you see people fighting tooth and nail. And it comes down to the last runner. 5 runners score, 7 runners run, and it can literally come down to the 7th runner beating another team's 5th runner. So everybody matters.
Right.
And no matter how bad your body's screaming for you to stop and like how dead you are, like you find that that little bit more for your team. And then it comes in training as well, where we're helping each other out. Like in workouts, one of the biggest examples I can think of is we regroup after every rep. When we do interval training, we run hard, you're exhausted, you empty the tank, and then we take a minute, catch our breath, and we do it again. And we have like small gaps that form between teammates, but in that rest, 9 times out of 10, with the exception of very specific workouts, we regroup during that rest time and we start together as a unit. And what that does is like it's like, yeah, okay, some people are running a little bit faster than others, but we're all a team. We're all in this together. And also like starting together, it makes that first 30 seconds that much easier when you got guys around you before we get strung out again. Having those people, those teammates next to you, it really psychologically makes a difference, and then that manifests itself
Hmm.
physically when you know you're not alone.
Well, it's funny because you guys are such a talented team, and I remember the first time I caught wind of you guys. It was like you came first, second, and third in a race or something crazy like that. And
Yeah, yeah.
it was you, Jude. I forget what the order was, but you, Jude, and I forget what the other guy's name was. I think
Will Cox. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
Wilcox. And what's it called? I don't know, it's just amazing how dominant you guys are and what a team you guys are. And I kind of just want to know, maybe at nationals, if you could take me through, because it's the highest level, what your mindset was like. Kind of put me in the shoes of Miles Brackenbury. What's your mindset like pre-race, at the race, and post-race?
Hmm. Yeah, great question. And that example, like really good example of the depth of our team. So like rolling into nationals, had a lot of confidence in our guys. Because Roman Mirnov, also stellar runner who was actually like 5th in that race, ended up being our first runner at OUAs, second runner at U Sports. Like that was the depth of this team. We were interchangeable. It was really exciting. Roman, I'm honored that I'm the one you're talking to, because there's so many great guys on our team, and Roman probably peaked the best at nationals that year. So I'm looking to him and saying like, hey, what did Roman do this season? Like he has these figured out. But for me at nationals, like pre-race, it was really I've been doing this long enough that my mind is fairly calm. There was a time when I was newer in the sport that it was busy, it was stressful, but I kind of know what I've done, what I need to do, and I know the drill. But even still, those championships bring out the butterflies. Like, not there aren't many races that can bring them out like that. I think the biggest thing is trying to catch myself looking at others. Like, I trust our guys, but we were going up against some stellar teams, some stellar individuals, and you catch yourself putting them on a pedestal, kind of focusing on what they're doing, sometimes copying their warm up drills. And you got to say, like, no, like, I am me. I am with my team around me. And, like, we know what we're doing. We've done everything we can do, and we're going to execute like our race. And everyone else can do what they're going to do, but we have control over what we're going to do.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it felt really good about the pre-race and kind of what we were going to get done. And then in the race, felt like we executed pretty well as a team. For me personally, like, I kind of yeah, it's hard to say. Like, sometimes you just don't have your day. And for me, it was like leading up to the race, the one thing stressing me out was like a bit of a glute tightness that came on. And I was able to, muscle through it, get some treatment. But mid race, we get to the 3K mark of an 8K race. And I go from like feeling smooth, exactly how I should, to all of a sudden, like, bit of a panic, like, oh my gosh, this just got really hard. I haven't felt this all season, and having had such a steady season, my best one yet, I really didn't have a lot of experience with that discomfort and pain that early in a race. So for me, it was a real mental battle as I kind of went backwards, and I saw my teammates up where I should have been, wanted to be,
Hmm.
and then it was I gotta admit, like, I spiraled a bit, like, I'm letting the team down, like, this is on me now, like, we're not gonna do this. And it was the toughest mental battle I've felt in that race. But you just kind of latch on to things when a opponent goes by, like, I just try to stick with them for as long as I can. And I think in that race, I was able to hold on for like decent position, like top 40, and we got the bronze. So post race was this wash of relief, like, that I didn't let the team down. Um, and even if I had won the race, we still wouldn't have I think moved up, or wouldn't have gotten gold. So it was like, okay, like, it's okay. But like, in the moment, it really felt like I let the team down, and that
Hmm.
feeling was tough. And I think in that race, I wouldn't say that in the moment I handled it the best, but from that experience, I kind of learned that in that moment, when your body's like screaming and you're kind of mentally struggling, like, they've got to find a way to um kind of relax instead of just pushing more, like,
Hmm.
the relax and go faster ideology is a frustrating one because it's like, what do you mean relax? Like, I've got to go faster, harder. But I think it's one that would have benefited me at nationals, because I kind of just grit my teeth and just like pushed as hard as I could. And in a sprint, maybe, even in a sprint, relaxation is important. But like, over that amount of distance, like, you really got to maintain your composure and go back to basics and just focus on steady, smooth strides. So, and kind of recognize that just pounding your body, like demanding more out of it, is
Hmm.
only going to get you so far. So that was a really valuable lesson, like, tough way to learn it, and but a really valuable one nevertheless. And I'm really excited to kind of apply that in the future. And then also finishing that race and having the support of my teammates, and kind of knowing that, okay, like, I didn't have my day, but these people are still around me, and like, this wasn't a complete failure. Like, this,
Hmm.
there are some successes, there are some lessons that we can take from this. We even got some hardware. I'm really proud of everyone that was also a really great realization that you know you can find success in the tough times.
Right. Do you keep your
Mhm.
medal in your room, or is it hidden somewhere
Yeah, they're
special?
actually back there. I feel a bit like I'm showing off there, but no, this is just my room. Good thing you can't see the floor. They're yeah, they're all team medals. So you know,
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
think
Well,
you know, it means a lot to have those hanging there and those accomplishments that you know I didn't do on my own, like we did it as a team.
well, I think something that's really cool that you've done is you've fostered a sort of environment, a creative environment where you can improve because you live in this think tank of similar minded individuals. Like you share the same sort of purpose related values with the people that you live with. So even on races where you have a tough time or you're doing well, or you have any questions to ask, I feel like you have such an interesting environment set up where you feel validated for asking that question, and you can learn so much faster than say someone who may live alone. And obviously everyone has their own ways of growing and stuff like that, but it seems like this sort of environment that you're in has been like this perfect sort of balance of competition between one another but also friendship.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel really lucky, you know, to be surrounded by runners, to run with my friends like every day. And yeah, you know, to each their own, but I find training uh with my teammates like so much better than training solo. And I really notice it now, like over the
Hmm.
holidays when you go a week training solo. Um, the grind catches up to you, and I think you can build a lot of mental toughness. Uh, but there's nothing quite like that flow of knowledge that you were talking about, that affirmation that you get, and just that common lifestyle, kind of the shared sacrifices that you make in other aspects of your lives, like when it's hard that you can't do something because you know you got to be in bed because you got a big race this week and you don't want to get sick, like all those things. It's nice to not be alone in that. And
Hmm.
I'm yeah really lucky to be surrounded by great teammates, to live with runners in a track shack, as we call it. And yeah, it's definitely, and you learn a lot from each other, and you get to see the the smaller parts of everyone's routine. Like you get to
Hmm.
see like how they're fueling, like how they're sleeping, and you got to do what's right for you. Like I don't think you can just copy someone who's super fast or super athletic and successful, but you can still kind of observe and experiment and then learn from one another in that
Hmm.
way.
Well, something, running at a high level to me is similar to an art form where it's like the best artists steal from one another. And
Mhm.
I think there's a difference between, I think it's more important to be going in the right direction than being the first person to do something. So just because you're super fast, quick learner, and out of nowhere you're doing something that no one else does, that person will probably succeed less than the person who uh, sort of takes note of other people's qualities that they can maybe implement into their own, but also improves their quality of thought in being unique, but still focusing on the right direction kind of thing. Uh, I don't know. I think it's just kind of interesting. What's sort of like a day in the life of a runner in this house? Like, what does your running schedule kind of look like?
Yeah, we run a lot, and you know, there's different training philosophies, but most of us have found that you know a decent amount of mileage and a high training load, our bodies can withstand that, which means that wake up, fuel, run, and then you recover, and then you run again. And then if it's a weight stay or you want to throw in some mobility 2 times a week, we throw in those things for injury prevention and strength. Um, at the end of the day, it's that simple. But we do have different cycles to our training. So kind of start of every season, competitions are in the distance future. That's our build, and that's where we're running our most. our longest, slowest, and really building up that aerobic capacity. This is kind of really where you get into that mindset of like, okay, here we go. Like this is the work that's going to get me where I want to go. And our coach talks about how everyone's looking for these like fancy schmancy things that are going to get them to the next level,
Hmm.
and everyone's talking about that last like little detail that's going to propel them to new heights. But at the end of the day, a lot of the success that we see in our sport is just from the removal of rubber on concrete, like just getting out there and running. Like
Hmm.
that's what's going to make you better. It's not that fancy. So that's the base. I love that part of the season. And then as we go along, we get more and more specific. So we add some more speed. We get into some competitions, and by the end of the season, the mileage has dropped. We're trying to peak. So it means we're kind of easing off our load, but running at high intensities to simulate races and sharpen up our muscles and get ready to roll. So those are kind of how our days shift. But in the house, we run, then we often eat together. Sometimes make each other coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker yet. I'm home out, but
Holding out for what? Marriage?
holding out for when I need it. Maybe kids. Um, my parents started drinking coffee when my sister was born, and they had two kids run around the house. Um, so yeah, I think I'm like saving it for when I'm desperate for energy.
Right.
And right now I just in our house, coffee is a bit of an art form for some of my housemates, and I don't have the time to put into coffee. I think I'd expend more energy making it than I would get from it. So one day when that equation flips, I'll be a coffee drinker. I don't mind the taste, but until that day, I'll just run on good old H2O and some tea.
Nice. Yeah, it's so funny because just in relation to training, I remember there was this one morning where I was like, I woke up at 5 a.m. and I thought I was like Batman. I was like, I'm gonna get in my car, I'm gonna drive to Good Life. No one's gonna be awake, it's just gonna be me working out. And I drive down
Yeah.
by the water and I see all of you guys going for a run. And I know for a fact that you were 8 kilometers into that run and you were going way too fast. And it made me want to run, but I was like, I can't go nearly that fast. Um, but I don't know, it's funny because like when I go run at the gym or something like that, because I like to work in like a 15 to 20 minute kind of run almost every time I work out. And that's sort of like
Hmm.
as a leisurely thing, I find it very hard to get better at running. I think running is such a sort of linear thing of like you can regress so quickly at it. Um, and I feel like there's like these ceilings that are very hard to break through. So obviously there's a genetic component that plays into this and a conditional component, but of the things that you can control, how do you improve your running to be such a high level athlete?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it's easy when we get into these sports that are so numbers focused, and it's so easy to get trapped in like the individual mindset, like especially when we're not on like a cross country team and like we really are just like doing this for ourselves at the gym or like on the morning grind. Uh it's easy to you feel like, oh, like I this is just my limit. That's all I can do. I think the like I said earlier, the biggest way to improve is just to run more. But you've got to work within, your body, your lifestyle, and limitations. Because I could say like, oh, just run more, but first of all, what distance are you trying to run? Because if you're trying to run a shorter distance, maybe you don't have to run that much further.
Hmm.
Secondly, like how busy is your day? Like, are you recovering? Because running more isn't you aren't going to reap the benefits if you're not recovering. And And the truth is, it's not linear. There are going to be regressions, and learning to deal with those regressions is one of the hardest lessons and one of the last lessons you learn, because typically you start training for something like running's a great example. You go from not running to training for running, and you see this huge initial jump, and it feels like this is linear and this is going to last forever because you just went from not training to training, and you reap the rewards of that work
Mhm.
you put in. But then you flatline for a bit. You made that initial leap. Maybe you even move backwards a little bit when things get stressful or your body's been working hard for a long period of time. And those are the points where you really have to um, look at this holistically and say, like, okay, like it's not just about putting in the work, it's also about recovering and fueling properly, and also like having fun while I'm doing it, because
Mhm.
if I'm really just chasing that linear progression, at one point it's going to taper and it's going to be smaller and smaller improvements, and we've got to be okay with that. We've got to, accept uh ourselves for where we're at, and like it's gonna sound taboo, but like love yourself and love like what you're capable of, and enjoy pushing your limits, and but being realistic about the parameters we're working in. So running more, I could get into specifics of running plans, but I think at the end of the day, like running more, a little bit fast, but mostly at like a fairly controlled pace, of pace that you can have a conversation at with a friend. Like do it with a friend if you can. Like
Mhm.
do that 5 days of the week and only run fast once or twice. Like that's kind of the training ideology that I am used to, and that I love. And then, but most importantly, having that mindset that it's okay to regress, because you'll come if you just keep putting in the work, but you're smart about the work. You don't regress and then work harder. You're just digging yourself into a hole. Like when you regress, it means your body is screaming out for recovery, or it's screaming out for fuel or something, and really like being attuned to those signals, and treating regression as a part of the process
Mhm.
that we should respond to, um, like considerately and kindly to our bodies, rather than as something that means like, oh, like this is my limit, I'm done, or I hate this. Like those are the mindsets that we kind of got have to break through if you're going to have that second leap after the first one and the third, because they happen. You can have huge jumps in this sport, but they don't come when we want them to, or when we expect them to. It just comes from consistency, and yeah.
Well, I think so many of the things you just said are so interesting. My mind just kind of thinking about it, like from a sports psychology perspective, I find intention so interesting because I find when athletes have intention, uh, it makes them learn and grow way faster because they're more emotionally connected to their goals. And not to bring up the Philadelphia Eagles because I know you're you're an Eagles fan, but I remember last year something Jalen Hurts said, when did winning stop becoming the thing? Something like the quote was something like that, which is kind of
Look where it got
ironic.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the best season, but I remember he said, "When did winning stop becoming the thing?" And I thought that was really interesting. Going like, secretly, uh, do all athletes are there? Is their intention really just to win, or do you view winning as sort of a byproduct of having fun, or what's your intention?
Yeah. I think a lot of people, like, if I'm being honest, get into the sport because they like to win. But I think what keeps you there is your love of the sport, win or lose. And I think that's like what's really important. And I think ideally, and there are cases of athletes who get into a sport because they love the process, because it makes them a better person, and because they can't really see their life without it. And then winning becomes a byproduct of that. And I think that is the healthiest way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of us, like our society is so built around winning and this celebration of winning, that this is often the aspect that draws us in. You get drawn to the sport that you're winning most at, not the and kudos to the athletes who stick to the sport where they're losing often and get better. But a lot of us are drawn to that sport where we find success. And but ultimately, I think have when you have that initial success, it's very unlikely that you maintain that success without any setbacks. And so I'm dealing with like a bit of an injury right now that has set back my goals for this season. And it's hard, like when you have really lofty goals and all of a sudden they're like the achievement of them seems to be slipping through your fingers. But I feel like my time in the sport, I'm able to handle that a lot better because my intention goes beyond just winning this season. It goes and for me, it's like I want to be healthy. I want to be able to do my sport because I love it. Um, but I've kind of got to focus on being healthy, happy, and running fast in that order. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that like past coach of mine has instilled in me and reminded athletes when that intentionality starts to get lost. So yeah, really great question. I think we could all do a lot better if we focused less on winning as the intention and more as the byproduct, like you said, of
Mm-hmm.
just this a good process that's helping us live like healthier, happier, and like fitter lives.
Well, I feel like a big almost being obsessed with the linear goal of winning uh can almost have this weird thing of like in the shadow of that immature sort of goal can be the fear of failure. And I think for a person like me who used to be an athlete, if I wasn't the best at something, there was like this weird synchronicity in my life where if I wasn't the absolute best at something, I'd give up on it. But that's counterintuitive to being the best at something. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that when you fear failure, uh, because you haven't been winning, it becomes
Mm-hmm.
this weird, not destiny related thing, but you kind of start uh, getting worse and worse at something because you're obsessing over how afraid you are of messing up. When I feel like the best sort of athletes, such as yourself, have found a way to compartmentalize that fear and almost weaponize it towards a healthy goal as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honored for you to consider me in that bunch. I think I'm still working on it, and like I think it's something that you got to kind of constantly practice because it's really easy to slip back into those old ways, like you mentioned. But yeah, definitely just recognizing that there's more to life than winning, that like you can actually succeed with a more like broad idea of success, and that it you also like nothing you do is an individual accomplishment when you really unpack it. I think we celebrate individuals so much, but everything's a team effort. Whether it's your like support system, family, friends, whether it's like your therapy that you're getting, both like mental health as well as like physical therapy to keep you healthy. Like all of these things like come together to allow individuals to succeed. And we just had the Grammys. Like people go up there and they give a speech, they announce an album drop, and they thank a lot of people. And that's great to see those thank yous. And in sports, you see the same thank yous happen when people win. But that those thank yous are there for a split second, and then we forget about them and we just celebrate the individual. And unless you pick up their book or you listen to their podcast, like you don't really see everything underneath. So like I really feel like um if you have that supportive system, then when you win, it's not an individual accomplishment. And when you lose, you're not alone. You're not as like devastated. And if you have that mindset that like this is my accomplishment and like I'm trying to win, then when you win, I think you'll win and then you'll be left wanting more. And when you lose, you'll turn on yourself and you won't like reach out to all the people around you that have got you this far and are going to help you through like the tough times as well. So I'm really grateful to feel that like
Mhm.
with our team.
Something that I've noticed just from the way that you're talking is like you've gained so much information, you have so much data on who you are as a person through this vehicle of running. Like this like running has taught you so much about life. It's almost like been a way to decode life's encodedness. And this is
Mm-hmm.
crazy to bring up, but you know how like sports is sort of like talked about as a metaphor for life? Uh
Mm-hmm.
it reminds me a lot of the myth of Sisyphus, where I'm sure you've heard of it, but basically, Sisyphus is a Greek king who cheats death one too many times. He's condemned by the gods and punished to roll a boulder up a hill for all of eternity. And this is seen as a punishment by the Greek gods. But to famous philosopher Albert Camus, he argues that one might imagine Sisyphus to be happy because you kind of gain a sense of existential freedom from revolting against something. And it's almost like finding happiness in your circumstance. And I think a lot of younger athletes, they have that boulder when they're younger that they can push up that hill every day. They have something to revolt against through sport, and it gives them a great sense of purpose. And I think that all kinds of people spend their entire lives looking for that boulder, looking for that thing to revolt against, that will give them a different outlook on life and a different sort of view on how to be happy through circumstance. So my question to you is kind of like, who is Miles Brackenbury without this boulder, which is to me, it's running for you. And what is it about running that grants you so much purpose?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome question. Awesome metaphor. Love mythology. Um, yeah, and
Thank
yeah,
you.
everyone needs a boulder like Sisyphus. I think it's hard to see myself without running. Um, it's definitely been, yeah, this place where I put so much in, and it's definitely given that purpose. And like you said, it's taught me so many life lessons. I definitely see running as being a part of my life. Like if I'm fortunate enough to be able to run for as long as I can. Um, but I think it also the reason it's so important is because if I were to replace it with another boulder, it would have to be something that fulfills my desires for like social connection, physical health, and mental health, because it's at once like a time for connecting with friends and meeting some like amazing people, as well as a time for getting stronger and physically healthy and like almost meditation at times. So like I think it's one thing to have a boulder. It's another thing to have a boulder that truly benefits you holistically. And so I think when we can find that boulder in sports, like being a healthy physical activity that often gets us connected and collaborating with others and competing in hopefully a healthy environment. There's some toxic ones, but like hopefully, you can see your opponents just as opponents on the court or the field or the track and or the pool or whatever, and not as opponents in real life. And those things are really valuable lessons. But I think lacking that purpose and you thinking about bigger boulders in my life. Like I'm in teachers college right now, and I just started a teaching placement, and I get a lot of fulfillment in that setting, in that educational setting, and just like helping people, community. These are all things that I think I've really benefited from immensely in my life, and kind of want to share that with others. But one of the big things I see in that our education system is kind of failing is like giving students an opportunity to pursue their boulder, and really having that practical aspect to when you're learning a core subject, understanding like how is this going to apply to my real life, and giving students more agency and empowering youth to really go out there and look for their boulder, not just look for the answer on the test or the response that their teacher wants, but what do they want to get out of their education? Is how's it going to help them in life? So I think there's like such a great parallel to that, and I think there's great potential there to have students and people just a little bit more play a bit more of an active role, and it goes back to that idea of winning as a byproduct and not as the goal, because I feel like the kids who do find sport is often because they've had a taste of success. And how do we build the mindset so that people can find a boulder that they can't get up the mountain? They can't even get it halfway up the mountain, but they see it as a worthy pursuit, or they feel themselves getting stronger from the challenge. Like
Hmm.
how do we do that? And it's such a shame that like that kids get cut from sports and all that. Like the more we can have opportunities to just play and just compete and just like do these challenges and celebrating the doing and not the winning, then um I'd love to see some of that change. And so, like, if I become a teacher, that's what I want to foster in my school. If I go another route, like, that's the mindset that I want to try to share with, like, whoever I'm working alongside.
Yeah, honestly, everything you said. There's so much interesting things to unpack there. Like, I was just thinking about the concept of this is something that's been on my mind recently of staying present. And for example, this podcast has actually been sort of like it's all about getting to know the person behind the athlete, but also sort of little thing that I gain from it is it's sort of like a meditation on just being present because I'm the kind of person where I'm a huge victim of the past and future. And my New Year's resolution was just to kind of be where my feet are and stop looking for attention, but sort of start gaining connection and try to magnetize connecting with people that are like-minded individuals kind of thing. Uh, and yeah, I just so many things that you're saying there. I think it's so important to instill these sort of things within kids when they're younger because I think when you don't make a team, when you don't have a purpose, all these things like this process continues for your entire life and it's so important to build positive sort of outlooks and habits so people don't spiral and lose so much time when it's completely unneeded. And I
Mhm.
think it starts with the education system. Uh,
Yeah.
and I was thinking so when you're saying this as well. What are you teaching? Like, what's your goal? What do you want to teach? Like English, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, I'm teaching English right now. And then geography is my other teachable. Social sciences are kind of my cup of tea, but I could like, I mean, phys ed is always calling if I could get qualified. I think all those things are super cool. But then also just like, talking about how we could make these broader changes, like also educational policy I think would be really interesting. Like, how can we rewrite the curriculum so that we're giving kids more practical skills, empowering them more, like just kind of resources that transcend subjects and influence like pedagogy, how we teach the kid, how we teach students, how we teach people in ways that kind of align with their own goals and journey of self-discovery.
Hmm.
um because it's hard. Like I love your New Year's resolution and like this idea of being present, but it's hard to be present when like what you're doing doesn't feel like it relates to your life or relates
Hmm.
to your goals. And when we're putting people, kids, like it goes beyond kids. Like when we're putting people into boxes and saying like you have to do this, based on narrow success criteria, then it's hard to be present in a classroom where maybe you don't feel like it's relevant to you, or you don't see yourself reflected. So yeah, yeah, it's interesting, and yeah, there's so
Mhm.
much to chew on.
There's a lot there's a lot of studies that show that when humans in general are emotionally connected to something, they learn way faster while doing it. So for
Mm,
example, like if I were to put up a sign that says there's a road blockage ahead, it would inform you or whatever, and you'd be worried about it. And like actually that's probably a better example is more like if I showed you a graph of like how the world's going to end in 50 years because of climate change, you'd be like worried, but you'd also be like, okay, I've seen a lot of these things. But if you were to read a
mhm,
book about a character that you relate to that goes through this process and you
yeah.
see how they're affected, you'd be
Hmm.
more emotionally connected to it, and you just be more, it's just something about being human where when it plays with your emotions, you have a deeper connection with it. Uh,
Hmm.
and I think with learning and the school system in general, I think a lot of kids don't give themselves to whatever subject they're doing because there's sort of this weird I don't know what the word is, but there's this weird border between them and the work where they don't see how it could impact them in
Hmm.
a certain sort of way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really interesting stuff. And yeah, so true.
What's it called? I was just thinking about this as well while you're talking is sort of how do you balance school as such a talented runner and as someone who's motivated to enact social change with youth movements and all these things, like how do you balance school and training?
Yeah, that's a tricky one at times, and at times it seems seamless. I definitely think running is one that maybe some of your other guests have more to speak to, because like I have a very flexible schedule in comparison to some of our basketball players, hockey players, volleyball players, and field sports, who are all, working around access to the court, the ice, the field. Um, I love cross country season because we're just running on grass and mud and like nature, so it's really easy to just get out at any time of the day, and it complements my schedule because just when I'm getting stressed with school, I get a break, and reset my mind and do my training, and then I can come back to it. We do have some training sessions that we do all together, um, but it's not as rigid of a schedule. So in that respect, it really helps because it's this like break that I get every single day, from my schooling. And then I think it also has really taught me to build good habits in planning and awareness, like when I'm taking on too much, when I need to get a good sleep, when I need to prioritize sleep over an all-nighter to get an assignment done, like those sorts of things, and trying to start further out. Like our whole training is based on like you don't just train for a race like in the week leading up. Like you start months in advance. So trying as best as I can to look at school in the same way. Like I don't start the project the night before, the week before. If I can at the very least start percolating on something earlier, it goes so much better. And you all ultimately, however well you do on it, you, I think, have a bigger sense of pride and bigger sense of connection. And then having people to do it, like returning to that idea of living with, being around runners, like our men's and women's teams are both academics weapons, as people say. There's lots of academic weapons, and people who go to the library together, or who are on the same study grind and training grind at once. So it's really great to have those people to inspire you.
Do you not self-identify as an academic weapon?
I got teased a little bit too much for being a try hard in high school.
Oh,
Um, I feel like Yeah, I hope some listeners can relate. That label was like so crushing in high school, like such a try hard. But I
It
but
sounds like you
I
grew up
do.
with it sounds like you grew up with bullies that were written by Netflix. Like, oh, you're such
Yeah.
a try hard. It's like you're the best
Yeah,
runner in
I know.
Canada.
The perfect PG diss.
Yeah.
Like yeah, um yeah, it's yeah, so I definitely like work hard in training and academics. And I take pride in that. And I think it's kind of just something fundamental. Like if I set my mind to something, I'm going to try hard at it.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I think there's people who probably definitely people who work harder than me, but like I don't consider myself like someone who's just like naturally gonna go out there and ace stuff. But what I am gonna do is I'm gonna outwork like a lot of people and take pride in my work, which is something that I think ultimately it like is reflected like in school and sport.
Well, honestly, how many psychological studies on the brain have they done where they show how running improves executive function, all kinds of different parts of the brain? Like there's so much information on how running specifically uh improves your lifestyle and just your
Mm,
brain health in general. So it makes
mm.
sense why you're a weapon. But I don't know why I'm thinking about this, but I feel like it'd be a hilarious social experiment to have a party with a bunch of cross country people just to see how long the night goes for because you guys have such good cardio that you can dance for like 30 hours straight.
I might know a place where you could conduct that study. Um, yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Just sort of like this has been a great interview, man. I honestly like I'm so happy that you came on for another recording because it's always such a fascinating interview with you. Sort of just like the last question I've been asking all the athletes that I have on this show is what's some advice that you'd give to an athlete that's looking to join a U sport, maybe go to Queens for cross country, doing U sports cross country? What's some advice that you have for a younger athlete?
Yeah, yeah, I love giving advice and I always think about younger self like when you're giving this advice. I think it's a really good exercise to do. So I appreciate the question and I hope you find this helpful to all those people out there. I would say that you know just be kind to yourself and define success in a way that is going to build you up and not break you down. So you've got to set lofty goals, but you've also got to set realistic goals. So making sure that you're setting those incremental goals and being kind to yourself and looking at success as something that incorporates recovery and lessons learned from failure and is not all about those wins and W's that we were kind of talking about today. So like that's first things like number one, like recognizing like becoming attuned to your body. So, you know, like there's lots of different training philosophies out there and running this dominant like philosophy is run more, run harder, do more, do more, do more. But while you're pushing yourself and you know if your goal is to run for U Sports or in any like higher level, then you really want to make sure that you're listening to your body and you're recognizing your own limitations and you're recovering and you're not just like doing more to a fault. That's something that like I've experienced is overtraining can happen and you want to kind of proactively catch yourself when you get into regressions that result from that and then building that support system like you're not going to get there on your own and if you know fall short of a goal or whatever then make sure you have the people the places the things that keep you in the sport because I don't think you need to quit a sport just because you're not playing at the U Sports level. Like U Sports is a really high level that like I really hope everyone gets like to experience like in some capacity, and you can experience it in some capacity, like if you're interning like with the strength coaches, or like as like if you love sport and you want to do kin and you want to practice as like an intern for therapy, like there's all these avenues, or just be a super fan, and or just like get to know athletes. Like it's not like there's only one path to those experiences, but definitely having the support system that will get you there and that will support you irregardless of whether you get you there. If you ever have someone in your life who's like only friends with you or only supporting you because of your success, then maybe take a step back and ask yourself, if this is really gonna get you where you want to be, and make you into the person you want to be. Um, yeah, I guess that would be my advice. And then the other thing I just wanted to do was like a huge shout out to our women's team, because I've done a couple of interviews. I've talked with you, Kenzie, and I always get focused on the men's team because
Yeah,
like they're
yeah.
my training partners. They're the guys I live with. But I am really grateful for our team because our men and women train together. We share a coach, we share a lot of things, and so yeah, like Queens is a really special team, and like the women are on the up and up. So like I know the men brought home some cross country hardware, but I think our women's 4x8 relay team is in the running for a national medal this track season, which is super exciting. And yeah, like I just they're a bunch of studs, and really they're also people that I learned from and stuff. So before I forget,
Yeah, yeah.
and I guess that's my last bit of advice is respect the athletes around you, and respect women in sport, and every athlete, because you have a lot to learn from, and we often idolize like the same male athletes all the time, and we miss all these athletes who are doing amazing things and have great advice and accolades. So yeah, just
Yeah, I
before I
think
forget.
I think that's such an important message. Everything you said there, and you're so like you are such an example of everything that you said. It's really cool to see that you're proof of concept of the advice that you're giving. Uh, and I'm sure with in relation to the women in sports, I didn't know that about the Queens women's track team. They're competing for a
Yeah,
national championship.
they're kind of flying under the radar right now.
They're under the radar.
They got a provincial bronze last winter. Um, that was awesome. Set a school record in the process. Um, and they're back and better than ever this season. With
Cool.
some huge breakthroughs from some of our women. So yeah, keep your eyes on them for interview opportunities and stuff, because yeah, they could be really fun to watch,
Yeah,
as
maybe I'll
they
get them
enter
on.
nationals.
Oh, sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, oh yeah, that I would just they're gonna be fun to watch as nationals approaches. So
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sorry. I was just thinking that I should like you could maybe give me their emails or something. I could have them on the show.
yeah,
Maybe talk to them a little bit in season, and we'll definitely have you back on as well, Miles. Like this is we do an interview once a month now. Only one of them is gonna be put out there, but this is the
yeah,
best one. So hopefully
yeah.
you
One is just a hang for Kenzie Miles, and then the other one gets aired. Yeah,
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have you back on the show. Kind of just to bring everything together for our viewers. What's going on in Miles Brackenbury's life right now, and what are you sort of looking forward to?
Yeah, well, I'm loving my teaching placement. That's bringing me a lot of fulfillment. Learning from the best, and on the job is super cool. And then I've got a bit of a back thing that I've been working through, and that has forced me into a lot of the things that I talked about today, like prioritizing recovery, less is more, and kind of having that mindset. But I'm on the up and up, and the team's headed to Boston this weekend for a big race, and so I'm really excited to see how the recovery has gone, and test things out, and also see my teammates compete. And yeah, so I'm really excited. Plus, I'm so excited to watch so much playoff action in the next month as like regular seasons wrap up in all of our winter sports.
Yeah, yeah.
So go Gaels go. And U Sports championship season, it's going to be a blast. So lots to look forward to in the near future.
Yeah, man. Well, honestly, you're such a
And
good. Oh,
lots of I'm looking forward to catching up on the rest of off the cuff podcasts and watching all the new ones. So I
thank you,
think
man. Thank you.
it's going to be my new, I think, treadmill podcast for sure.
The new treadmill pod.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good
Hmm.
slogan. The new treadmill pod, off the cuff.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, it was a great time talking to you. I honestly, it's a great interview. You're this is exactly what I was looking for. And honestly, I wish you great luck with this. You have a race this weekend, right?
Yeah, yeah, Saturday.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All right. Well, good
fingers
luck this
crossed.
weekend, man. And yeah, we'll get you back on soon for sure.
Yeah, yeah, totally. We'll both catch our breath, let the juices stew
Yeah, yeah.
and then we'll get back to pushing that boulder.
Okay, perfect, man. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll see you
Thanks,
around.
Kenzie.
See ya. Thank you.
Cheers.